also condemns the shooting, which resulted in the injury of one of its members. Malacanang also denounced the attack. In a statement, acting presidential spokesman Martin Andanar says, quote, "Violence has no place in any civilized society." The palace urges local authorities to conduct a thorough investigation and hold accountable those involved in the incident in Bukidnon. Pia?
Paige Javier there reporting. Well, the shooting incident comes a day after President Rodrigo Duterte said he will enforce the limit on the number of armed bodyguards for candidates. Mr. Duterte notes he would invoke the Alunan Doctrine, where 2 or more armed men are considered a private army. The president told candidates to seek assistance from the police or military if they sense danger, as he threatened arrest for those who violate that rule. He's the president in his own words.
Talagang pupuntahan kita, private army, I will arrest you and your bodyguards. Tandaan ninyo, hindi kami papayag sa gobyerno na magkaroon ng terrorism sa election. Maniwala't kahit hindi, tutuhanin ko kayo. We will enforce the law to make the election peaceful.
Acting presidential spokesperson Martin Andanar, meanwhile, says Malacanang cannot provide security personnel for Bongbong Marcos since it can only give protection to the sitting president and his family. A Nakalusugan party list representative Mike Defensor earlier urged the palace to provide security personnel for Marcos. The lawmaker said Marcos is the only major presidential candidate who does not have government security because he is not an incumbent official. Well, still, Marcos, Cebu Governor Gwen Garcia is confident that the former senator will win the province with a record-breaking margin. Garcia says Marcos can surpass the 1.2 million vote margins of past presidential candidates, which include Duterte and former President Gloria Arroyo. The re-electionist governor claims 95% of incumbent officials in the country's most vote-rich province are allied or aligned with her. Her party, One Cebu, recently endorsed Marcos.
You do the math. By comparison, I think we will be delivering even greater than what had been the previous margins, not votes, lamang. And it also helps. BBM and Inday Sara are way ahead. Ngayon, I'm governor, the mayor of Cebu City, the mayor of Lapu-Lapu City, the mayor of Madawi City, and I representing 44 towns and 6 component cities have now thrown our support behind the UNI team. So, for the first time, we have this One Cebu Island phenomenon.
Marcos held what he called a grand festival rally in Cebu City Monday. Local police claim more than 300,000 supporters showed up. Marcos placed third in Cebu province during the 2016 vice presidential race. His fiercest rival, Vice President Leni Robredo, carried Cebu province, while Alan Tito Cayetano, the running mate of then-candidate Duterte, won Cebu City. Robredo vows to help fisherfolk in Zambales amid China's aggression in the West Philippine Sea. In a dialogue with fishermen, Robredo said the government should provide them better vessels to match Chinese fishing boats in the area. The VP is also looking to strengthen the Coast Guard to avoid bullying incidents. Early this month, Robredo got the support of fishermen who were in the boat that sank after being hit by a Chinese vessel in 2019.
So dapat tayo nag-i-invest yung pamahalaan para magpagawa na maayos na mga fishing vessels para sa mga mangingisda natin. Para kahit papano, natatapatan natin yung dami nila.
Presidential candidate Jose Montemayor is against the revival of the Bataan nuclear power plant. He says there are plenty of health and disaster risks similar to what happened to other power plants like the 3 Mile Island in the U.S., Chernobyl in Ukraine, and Fukushima in Japan. Montemayor says the country should tap renewable energy instead. The Commission on Elections is keeping Smartmatic as its biggest technology provider for the May 9 polls, despite a confirmed data breach that occurred in January. Find out why from Melissa Lopez.
Smartmatic stays on as the technology provider of the May 2022 elections, despite figuring in a data security breach that initially cast doubt on the integrity of the polls.
Because of the proximity of the election, it is not wise to take any drastic action against Smartmatic that might prejudice the conduct of the elections in May 9.
While COMELEC has the power to terminate Smartmatic's contracts and blacklist it for future biddings, Chairman Sedamen Pangarungan told the Senate panel that they are holding back until the NBI submits its final report. The poll body did not release a 90 million peso check to Smartmatic due last March amid the security breach. The company bagged some 3 billion pesos worth of deals for the May 9 elections. The NBI says Smartmatic's systems recorded over 700 file downloads in 6 days on the week of January 9th. This was traced back to contractual quality assistance worker Ricardo Argana. The dismissed employee later admitted to giving access to Smartmatic data to a third party whom he met on Facebook chat. He confessed he was promised free tech trainings and cash worth 50 to 300,000 pesos. The data ended up in the hands of hacker group XSOX, who reached out to offer cybersecurity services to Smartmatic. But when ignored, the NBI says it threatened to leak the data to the media and the public, but to no avail. Authorities sued Argana for illegal access of data and is looking to file more charges this week. The NBI is convinced that Argana and XSOX are working with the hacker behind the 2016 Commie leak incident.
We believe he is not acting alone. And we have already identified some person of interest.
The NBI also says the hackers only got 4 gigabytes of data, contrary to a 60 gigabyte claim. Smartmatic says stolen data covers company policies as well as rules for out-of-office work. Despite this, both COMELEC and Smartmatic assure that the incident will not affect the outcome of the elections. Security has been beefed up at Smartmatic's headquarters in Laguna as well. Also on Tuesday, COMELEC compiled its second trusted build for its transmission router as part of last-mile preparations for voting day. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
Coming up on Newsnight, Senator Ping Lacson belies claims of VP candidate Lito Atienza that Senator Manny Pacquiao deliberately skipped Sunday's controversial news conference. And the God of Thunder is back with a hammer-wielding goddess, a sneak peek into Marvel's Thor, Love and Thunder, here on CNN Philippines.
Exodus 18:20.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines Breaking News. At this hour, the Commission on Elections has officially placed the towns of Tubaran and Malabang in Lanao del Sur under its control. This is a developing story. We'll give you more details as soon as they become available. Well, more national candidates speaking up on the Easter Sunday joint press conference of three presidential hopefuls. Vice presidential candidate Willie Ong disagrees with the call of his running mate, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, for Vice President Leni Robredo to quit the race. In a Facebook video post, Ong distanced himself from the issue, stressing that no candidate should ever have to back out from the race in the first place.
Po ako? Siyempre hindi. Go siya. Sa akin, go kayo lahat. Go kayo lahat. Go. Walang magpipigil. Kung ako siyempre hindi. Pero siyempre, iba naman yung opinion ni Mayor Isko. Tanungin niyo lang iba. Kahit tinetrend ako dati withdraw, tinitiis ko lang. Okay? Ano ba honest tingin ko kay VP Leni? Sa akin lawyer siya. Magaling siya. Magaling sa magot. Matalino.
Arrival Representative Lido Atienza, meanwhile, praising his running mate, Senator Manny Pacquiao, for not taking part in what he describes as a comedy show. Atienza claims Pacquiao really had no intention to join the event.
Sabi nga niya, nung pagkatapos niya, kasi tinanong ko, bakit di ka dumating? Sabi niya, bakit ako pupunta ron? Naramdaman ko na iba yung sinasabi, iba yung agenda. He will not join a comedy show like that. I knew it was going to turn out to be a parang Three Stooges show. Gusto nila lang hampasin yung kalaban, ang hinampas sila pare-pareho sila nagampasan sa sarili na ulo. Tawa na tawa si Manny. Nagtatawa lang kayo ni Senador Manny Pacquiao sapagkat hindi ninyo ginawa yung tama.
But presidential candidate Senator Ping Lacson refutes Atienza. Lacson says it was just Atienza speaking and not Pacquiao himself. He claims it was Pacquiao who asked to delay the press conference by an hour since he will be coming from the province. Up to the last minute, Lacson says Pacquiao was in touch with them.
It was not deliberate because kausap pa namin siya, naka-speaker phone siya, kausap niya si Senate President. The reason why naging 11 o'clock yung press con, that was upon his request. So mali yung sinasabi ni Congressman Atienza, that's a lie. It's only coming from him. Hindi galing kay Senator Pacquiao yun. And I cannot imagine Senator Pacquiao denying na kasama siya sa press con, sa paghanda sa press con.
Isko Moreno will not apologize for calling on Robredo to withdraw after fellow presidential candidate Norberto Gonzales said he was sorry.
I don't apologize on something that I believe that is fair. Hindi ako humihingi ng pasensya sa isang bagay na ginawa ko na matagal. Hihingi sa akin ng withdrawal, hihingi din namin sa inyong fair lang.
The Robredo campaign said it appreciates the former defense chief's apology but noted that it was unnecessary. Well, a faction in the ruling PDP Laban party backed by President Duterte expresses concern over claims there could be destabilization if its endorsed candidate Bongbong Marcos wins. The group, led by Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi, says President Duterte could be forced to go over time if the country fails to proclaim a new successor because of instability.
Huwag naman, sabi nga niya, ready na siya to go. And so let's make the conduct of the election really orderly para hindi siya mag-overtime sa trabaho niya.
If you will come out with the destabilization, of course, this administration will not allow that to happen. And kung magkakagulo, magkakaroon ng election, then we have to maintain the status quo.
The president's term ends on June 30th. The Constitution says the vice president-elect will act as chief executive in the absence of a president-elect. In the absence of both, the Senate president shall take over. The House Speaker is next in the line of succession.
That doesn't mean a term extension. Hypothetically, there are a lot of possibilities that could happen, no? Kasi kung wala rin ang Senado, kahit umayon sa kalahati ng Senado, wala. Ang Kongreso, wala rin. Hindi naman tayo nagsabi ng failure of election, hindi naman tayo nagsabi ng sabotage, no? Eh yun na nga sila nananakot agad at pagka sila natalo, gano'n na mangyayari. Pwede ba yun? Pananakot na yun eh.
At least 14 areas under the lowest alert level 1 have seen a slight increase in COVID-19 cases in the past week, but health officials say this is insignificant with no noticeable spike in hospitalization. Experts have warned of another surge as they struggle to vaccinate more people. A DOH official admits it may be impossible to reach the 19 million target vaccinees before the Duterte administration bows out. Caroline Bonkin reports.
Pop-up vaccination sites were opened to devotees in several church grounds last Holy Week. It's an effort to boost COVID vaccine coverage. Yet only about 500,000 people got fully vaccinated in the past 11 days. Earlier, vaccinating this many takes only a day or two. Booster shots also not as in demand. Among those qualified, only 12.7 million availed. 36 million still not boosted.
Magpa-boost po kayo kasi isa po itong paraan na may ensure natin na mananatiling mababa ang number of severe cases.
As inoculation slowed down, the Vaccination Operations Center head admits fully vaccinating 90 million Filipinos by end of June won't likely happen.
We are looking at 77 million sana fully vaccinated and then improving our booster doses. So that will mean about 900,000 jobs per day. So kailangan talagang irampa natin ng gusto yung ating pagbabakuna.
The biggest chunk of unvaccinated are in BARM. It's the only region that still hasn't fully vaccinated half the target.
Merong hesitancy sa natin na magpabakuna. So nagiging problema ko. May mga areas na malayo na mahirap i-access. Dahil mababa yung cases, pakiramdam ng mga tao ay nakakailanganin yung bakuna.
In an attempt to reach over 23 million who have not yet completed the doses or still unvaccinated, the DOH is holding special vaccination in BARM, Soc-Sargen, Negros Oriental, Negros Occidental, and Palawan.
Sa time tayo na tinatawag na last mile, ang mahirap talaga i-reach yung 1/3 ng population. So marami pang hindi pa nababakunahan o ayaw magpabakuna o hindi pa kondusibong magpabakuna. They are complacent. Kaya nasa hard to reach areas.
Incentivize natin yung pagpapabakuna. Pangalawa ay dadamihan po natin yung mga centers. Gamitin pati yung mga mosque.
A second booster shot for the elderly, severely and moderately immunocompromised people, and healthcare workers will be available in a week or two. This time, the single-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine used to be reserved for the elderly and far-flung communities will be among the brands to be offered as booster shot. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
Philippine ambassador to China, Jose Santiago Chito Santa Romana, has passed away. The Foreign Affairs Department did not disclose the cause of death, but Santa Romana had just returned to Beijing from Manila and was quarantined in a hotel. Embassy officials are coordinating with the Chinese government for the immediate repatriation of his remains. The DFA honored Santa Romana for making Philippine-China relations, quote, flourish despite differences. He was appointed as Manila's ambassador to Beijing in December 2016, but took up his post in February the following year. Santa Romana's predecessor, Erlinda Basilio, had fallen ill, leading to his appointment. The ambassador was no stranger to China, having spent more than 3 decades there. He first visited China as head of a Filipino youth delegation with 2 other journalists and could not return after martial law was declared in 1972. Santa Romana later became Beijing bureau chief for American television network ABC News for over 2 decades. Chinese Ambassador Huang Xilian has extended his condolences over the passing of his Filipino counterpart. Huang recognized Santa Romana's, quote, undeniable contribution to the development of Manila-Beijing ties, adding he will always be grateful for their friendship. Malacanang also offering its sympathies to the family of the late ambassador.
Nagbibigay puwi kami sa ambassador o kay Ambassador Santa Romana sa kanyang mga nagawa para tumibay ang Philippine-China relations. Our thoughts and prayers to the Santa Romana family.
Our condolences to the family of Ambassador Santa Romana, who was a veteran journalist, He was 74 years old.
What makes a nation grow? Every day we see them. The providers, the traders, the movers, the doers, and the go-getters. Each play their part, whether big or small, in creating a better life for all. Whichever your role may be, we're right here for you. We are Land Bank, and we are here to make this nation grow.
Welcome to the color.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Welcome back. News on Pinoy athletes. EJ Obiena says being the nation's flag carrier at the Southeast Asian Games in Vietnam is both an honor and a source of motivation to train harder. The Olympic pole vaulter tells CNN Philippines Sports Desk he did not expect the special role, but it makes him more determined to win. EJ also sharing what's next for him with events other than the regional meet in Vietnam.
Having this opportunity to, not just represent the athletes, to be honest, to represent 7,000 islands in the Philippines and, millions, hundreds of millions of people. So it is an honor. We're looking forward to 3 major championships, which is Southeast Asian Games, then World Outdoor Championship in Eugene, and then we have the Asian Games in September in China. So hopefully I'll be able to do all of those and with good quality, and hopefully we'll bring some hardware back to the country.
And the first Filipina marathoner to compete in the Olympics, Mary Joy Tabal, is welcoming a child this October, but this also means she will miss out on the SEA Games next month. In a Facebook post, Mary Joy said she hopes to get back to training and competition by the end of 2022. Well, how are basketball teams faring in UAAP Season 84? The UP Fighting Maroons made their 8th straight win, defeating FEU today by a small margin, 73-70. Richie Davao showed the way for UP with 19 points. The Tamaraws suffered their 3rd consecutive loss with this game. The De La Salle Green Archers scoring a massive 112-83 win against the UST Growling Tigers alongside major game milestones. Shawnee Winston posting a career-high 33 points for La Salle. The Green Archers also became the first team to breach the century mark this UAAP season. Meanwhile, the Ateneo Blue Eagles keeping their unblemished record with a 76-63 victory against the UE Red Warriors, who remain winless this season. One more match for today with NU facing Adamson at the Mall Asia Arena. at 7 p.m. And coming back to the big screen soon, none other than the God of Thunder. The first poster and teaser for Thor Love and Thunder released today. The trailer featuring familiar faces from Chris Hemsworth as the Asgardian hero to some Guardians of the Galaxy like Chris Pratt's Peter Quill. We'll also get a sneak peek of Natalie Portman as the female Thor.
Remember what I told you? You ever feel lost? Just look into the eyes of the people that you love. Not me. What? Just listening.
The film arrives in cinemas this July. Thor is the first character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to get 4 solo movies. And that is it for tonight. Join me again at Pulse as usual at 8 p.m. I'm Pio Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Let's go up close and personal with Vice Presidential Aspirant and Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Senator, makailang ulit niyo pong sinabi ang kalaban COVID, gutom at kahirapan. If you win as Vice President, and in specifics, what's the first thing you're going to do?
You know, we will expand all the interventions of Vice President Lenny in her office. Solid support for our frontliners in terms of PPEs. Ginawa niya yan. Hanap buhay sa gitna ng pandemya, ginagawa niya yan. Yung telekonsulta, dahil natatakot ang ating mga kababayan pumunta sa ospital, hindi alam kung saan pupunta, mayroong telekonsulta si Vice President na libo-libo na ang tutulungan na bibigyan ng adviso at advice. Yung pagbigay ng trabaho sa mga mananahi, di ba? Para sila ang gumagawa ng PPEs. Of course, dapat international standards. So all these interventions that she has been doing already for the last year, almost 2 years, yung ayuda, yung food packs na nade-deliver, lahat yan ay palaliwigin pa natin. And of course, solid contact tracing, solid testing, solid isolation ang kinakailangan gawin. And that's what we're going to do para talunin natin ang COVID. And of course, the economic...
Sorry, sir, ha? When
Go
you
ahead.
talk about, this is very important, when you talk about solid contact tracing and solid testing, okay, while we've had different SARS for testing, tracing, treatment, etc., kayo ho ba nakikita ninyo na posible yung tinatawag na free mass testing? Of course, when we say mass testing, let's underscore the fact that hindi po every single Filipino, but of course, siya po si first degree, second degree, and third degree. Nakikita niyo ho ba na under a Lenny Kiko team up, magkakaroon po ng free mass testing?
Well, we will endorse that because that was our position from day one na dapat libre ang testing at gamitin yung pondo ng masinop. Kasi ang nangyari dito, free testing yung ating panawagan. Ang nangyari, yung testing kits, kalahating bilyon ang nag-expire while in storage. So talagang mayroong problema yung COVID response. Ayusin natin yung COVID response. Matiyak na tama ang management ng buong effort. Dahil talagang nakita natin matindi ang naging kakulangan. So yes, I support mass testing that should be free and shouldered by the government, as is the case for vaccination. Dahil pag wala tayong ang vaccination libre, dapat ang testing din libre. Dahil yan ang effective way of really managing, arresting. Alam natin kung sino ang positibo para ma-isolate kaagad para hindi na kumalat ito. So kasama yan sa ating imumungkahi. But I have to say, this is my personal view at this point. I will have to bring it up with our Vice President because we work as a team.
No po. Okay, understandable. And kayo ho ay alam naman po natin perennial problem yung siguro yung kinakaharap ng mga magsasaka natin. Ano po? Kumbaga, sila po yung gumagawa ng pinakamahirap na trabaho, yet sila po yung may maliit na kinikita. Once and for all, sir, what really can be done to help uplift the lives of our farmers?
So, sorry, this is about which
Sa mga
sector?
magsasaka po, the farmers.
Oh yes. Well, as ang naging karanasan ng ibang bansa, pagka sinuportahan mo at inalalayan mo ang ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda, dadami ang kanilang ani. Pag dumami ang kanilang ani, tataas ang supply ng pagkain, bababa ang presyo ng pagkain. Magiging mura na at abot kaya ang pagkain. Ma-address na ang gutom. Pinakamalaki sa gastusin lalo na ng mahihirap ay pagkain. Kapag bumagsak ang presyo ng pagkain, yung mga mahihirap ang pinaka makikinabang. Magkakaroon na talagang maayos na at masustansyang pagkain, lalo na ang mga kabataan, yung ating mga anak, na ma-address yung mga problema ng kalusugan. So really, supporting our farmers will provide better yields, mas mataas ang ani, mataas ang kita nila, pero bababa naman ang presyo ng pagkain. At mawawala na ang gutom. That is actually what food security is all about. Addressing hunger, addressing lack of supply. And by supporting your farmers and fisherfolk, you're actually addressing in the long run yung gutom at kahirapan.
As a last question, Senator, should you win as Vice President, ano po ang cabinet post na nararapat para sa inyo?
I'm sorry, should I win? What?
The vice presidency. What cabinet post do you think is most suited for you?
That's up to the win. Well, if we win and Vice President Lenny wins, I leave it up to her. And I trust she will make the right decision for our country. So that's her. That question should be raised and addressed to her, not me.
I do believe that, sir. But what my question is, what do you think is most suited for you where you will excel?
Bahala. I will defer to the Vice President. Ayaw kong pangunahan ang magiging desisyon niya kung sakaling kami masuportahan ng kababayan natin at manalo.
Okay. Senator Kiko Pangilinan, sir, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras and good luck to you.
Maraming salamat, Pinky, at magandang araw sa kanilang lahat. Please stay safe. Hindi pa tapos ang COVID. Mag-ingat tayong lahat para ligtas tayo dito sa problemang ito. Pagtulong-tulungan lang natin. At alam ko, sabi ko nga doon sa ating talumpati, huhugot tayo ng tapang at lakas mula sa isa't isa. At sa pamamagitan ng ating damayan, malalagpasan din natin itong problema at pagsubok na ito. Maraming salamat, Pinky, at magandang araw sa kanila lahat.
Thank you also, sir, and thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.
Now, we're saying vaccinate. So kailangan kong sabihin, step up, no? The government's pandemic response, despite our country being the largest borrower of loans for COVID response, bakit tayo yung magiging pinakahuli sa region natin in terms of recovering our national health and as well the health of our economy? So it's a very painful situation we are in right now, Rico, and it's on the minds, top of mind of all Filipinos looking at a possible change next year. We have to focus on health kasi next year, 2022, will be year 3 of the pandemic. We have to focus on the economy kasi nga we will still be within a few years at least of slow and very painful and like I mentioned, laggard economic recovery. And I have to say, Rico, in this very hot season of Pharmaly and other long-standing corruption issues, I think top of mind of citizens will be corruption.
Right.
Checking it, fiscalizing it, and eventually eliminating it.
Definitely, Pharmaly will be front and center, no? When candidates talk about their platforms and how to resolve the corruption issue. What do you think is next for this investigation, Senator Risa? In a show of force, you have the Philippine College of Physicians along with several other medical societies expressing outrage over President Duterte's memorandum stopping executive officials from appearing in the Senate's ongoing investigation into the alleged corruption in his administration's pandemic response. Do you think the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee will really get to the bottom of it?
We intend to, Rico, at kami po ay nabubuhayan lalo ng loob, nagpapasalamat dun sa ating healthcare workers, health professionals for that stunning, unprecedented statement. I think everything has just piled up in the last 1.5 years. The sufferings on the health front, the sufferings on the economic front, again with a very poor economic pandemic response of our government, especially on behalf of poor families at yung ating mga MSMEs, na yung ating mga doktor at iba pang health professional ay hindi na talaga napigilang magsalita, lalo na idagdag yung issue ng corruption sa gitna pa ng pandemya. So moving forward in the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, our chairman, Sen. Dick, has already begun to start drafting our committee report, but more and more angles to this sordid story keep emerging. Rico, more characters in this cast. I think we will have a very solid committee report, solid findings, and very strong recommendations of how to turn the tide in terms of our pandemic response, especially in the matters of our healthcare workers, in the matter of clean and not graft and corruption-laden expenditures of limited pandemic funds that should really be used to address the health and economic crises facing our people.
A big issue right now, Senator Risa, is this provision of substitution in the Omnibus Election Code. And some of your Senate colleagues are saying candidate substitution by political parties has been abused. What should be done, in your opinion?
Well, I'm glad that Senate President, for one, has spoken up about that. We have only, but still, 8 months left in this 18th Congress. At alam naman natin, Rico, that our track record in the country in terms of electoral reform legislation could still certainly be added to. At isa na yan, yung posibleng pag-revisit, posibleng pag-amyenda ng probisyong iyan sa ating Omnibus Election Code. Siyempre, importante rin, Rico, to continue trying to build a real political party system here in the country, kasunod ng mga naunang electoral reforms tulad ng party list law, yung election automation, yung overseas absentee voting. I think we could also work on additional electoral reforms like campaign finance reform and other proposed reforms to the political party system para talagang lalo na ngayong panahon ng pandemya at papasok na naman tayo sa isang general election year, that not only the parties, not only the candidates, but citizens as well, all voters will be more enabled to focus on the issues that matter going into year 2022. Na gaya ng binanggit ko nga kanina, palagay ko front and center talaga kalusugan, ekonomiya at korupsyon.
You have authored, Senator, a historic bill seeking to raise the age of sexual consent to 16-year-olds from the current 12 to protect children from sexual exploitation and abuse. Will this ever become law before your term ends?
Oh, I'm certainly hoping so, Rico. Pasado na siya on third and final reading in both the Senate and the House. In fact, we are beginning our bicameral conference committee meetings tomorrow. And like I mentioned earlier, may 8 buwan pa sa loob ng kongresong ito, sa loob ng administrasyong ito. This is a bill that I think no one can quarrel with. Ano po, yung itaas yung napakababa nating age of consent. Ngayon, 12 lang. It's the lowest in our region, Rico. One of the lowest in the world. At itaas natin, palakasin ang proteksyon sa ating mga anak, sa ating mga bata laban sa statutory rape in the interest of protecting the best interest of the child, fulfilling our obligations under the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Children while continuing to recognize the evolving capacities of young people. So, pwedeng pirmahan yan ni Presidente. At worst, he could let it lapse into law. Pero hindi ko ma-imagine any scenario na i-veto nila ito. This is what the Senate calls a happy bill. Kami po sa minority at yung mga kasama namin sa majority united to support the passage of this bill, and I believe it also had the widest support in the House.
You mentioned earlier the economy is one of the main issues in these elections. More than 4 million Filipinos, Senator Risa, or even more. I mean, those who are not included in the statistics have lost their jobs. A lot of micro, small enterprises have shut down, are out of business. The economy is still weak and faces a long road to recovery. If you become a senator for a second term, can you give us specific legislation or initiatives that you will put on the table to jumpstart the economy and create jobs for our kababayans?
I certainly can, Rico. On the heels of what we're trying to pass now as an even more health and economic responsive national budget for year 2022, kung may kahit anong pag-asa pa para sa isang Bayanihan 3. On the heels of that, kapag makapagtrabaho ulit ako sa Senado sa susunod, I will continue to work on bills like for Filipinos in the informal economy, maternity benefits for pregnant workers in the informal sector, benefits for our workers in the gig economy. Buhay na po ito, Rico, before the pandemic, and even more so with the lockdowns, with everybody working and studying online. Our delivery riders, even if they wish, the majority of them wish to preserve their status not as employees but as freelancers, holding their own time, making their own decisions about which jobs they will take, still benefits for them as working people under the law. For our overseas Filipino workers, Rico, especially as the global economy is only beginning to really get back on its feet in a still not completely designed new and better economic normal. One of the bills I'd like to continue working on, unless we can happily pass it in this 18th Congress, the Magna Carta of Seafarers for our mga marino, among many other economic measures, Rico, that I believe the next Congress can continue to work on in terms of our legacy in this 18th Congress, and what I hope the next administration will do much better than the current administration in terms of protecting Filipino families, lalo na yung mga mahihirap na pamilya, in terms of protecting yung ating mga micro, small, and medium enterprises from the worst effects of this pandemic and recession.
And Senator Risa, and make sure that with this billions of pesos in funding, there is transparency and accountability, and that the funds are accounted for and it goes to the proper sectors and used in the right way.
Exactly. That is what rankles, Rico, about the issues we are investigating and how to unearth the truth about following the COA audit report of the Department of Health's expenditures last year, 2020. Kung bakit may 42 billion pesos transferred by DOH to the PSDBM without proper documentation, and how apparently that 42B has been dipped into to favor this small, new, undercapitalized company to the detriment, Rico, sa mga Pilipinong kumpanya na nag-repurpose to meet Filipinos' pandemic needs. Yung mga manggagawa nila na handang-handang gawin ang kanilang tungkulin sa ating bayan. And apparently, with a generous dose of influence peddling by the former presidential economic advisor Michael Yang, and therefore even the president's own role in this whole fiasco is still not completely accounted for. So definitely, with on the heels of our disappointment about how the administration has misused the funds appropriated by Congress as requested by the executive in Bayanihan 1, Bayanihan 2, the General Appropriations Acts or national budgets. Well, moving forward, Rico, in year 2022, we have to do much, much better on behalf of our suffering people. Kasi hindi talaga katanggap-tanggap na yung mga pondong galing sa buwis ng mamamayan, maayos na inappropriate ng ating Kongreso, hiningi ng executive, ay hindi gamitin optimally, maximally, to help our people recover our physical health, to help our economy recover its health, and again generate more jobs, again get more enterprises and businesses back on their feet, and set us back on the road that we were more than half a decade ago, and especially a year and a half ago, towards being one of the more developed economies in Asia, towards middle income status on the global stage.
And we will continue our discussion with Senator Risa Ontiveros after this short break on The Final Word. Death penalty for drug-related crimes.
No.
Should a sitting president be allowed to run for vice president in the next election?
No.
Do you favor resuming peace talks with the communist rebels? Glad you're staying with us on The Final Word on CNN Philippines. Thanks for joining us. I'm Rico Hizon, and we continue our discussion now up close with Senator Risa Ontiveros. Senator Risa, we have 2 minutes left in our interview, and I would like you to answer these 6 questions with just a yes or a no. All right?
Okay.
First question.
All right.
Do you favor easier public access to the statement of assets, liabilities of and net worth of the President, Vice President, and members of Congress?
Yes.
Do you support lifting foreign ownership limits in the Constitution?
No.
Do you favor the reimposition of the death penalty for drug-related crimes?
No.
Should a sitting president be allowed to run for vice president in the next election?
No.
Do you favor resuming peace talks with the communist rebels?
Yes.
And should the country be more aggressive in protecting its maritime interests in the West Philippine Sea?
Oh, yes.
Your final word, Senator Risa Ontiveros, to the Filipino people.
Salamat, Rico. Sa mga kababayan namin at mga kapwa-botante, sana po moving forward beyond the sufferings of this pandemic so far, sa ating kalusugan, sa kamatayan na dumalaw sa sobrang daming pamilyang Pilipino, sa kawalan ng trabaho at hanap buhay, sa gutom na pinagdudusahan ng ating mga kababayan. Sana po moving forward, regardless of who we voted for in 2016, lahat po tayo nagdurusa. Sana po moving forward into 2022, mabawi natin ulit yung dati nating mas malawak na pagkakaisa. Pagtulong-tulungan po nating gumaling sa COVID-19 pandemic na ito. Pagtulong-tulungan po nating guminhawa muli. Bawasan talaga ng mahigit ang kahirapan na lalong dumami dito sa ating lipunan. At pagkaisahin natin yung insistence natin sa malinis na paggogobyerno at malinis na paggastos ng ating gobyerno sa perang galing sa ating pagod at galing sa ating buwis. Palagay ko po ay muli, regardless of sino ang mga binoto natin noong 2016, kaya pa nating magbuo ng mas malawak na pagkakaisa para sa ganyang mga pangarap. Isang new and better normal para sa ating lipunan sa 2022. Pagtulungan po natin iyon.
Senator Risa Ontiveros, thank you so much for joining us on Up Close on The Final Word.